What's going on, everybody? Steve here. This time I'm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee at the Murfreesboro Skate Park and Pump Track. This skate park is amazing and I'm going to walk you through it entirely. But first, the thing you need to know is that this park is relatively new. It was built last year in 2024 by Line Skateparks. This park is kind of tucked back in the corner of, I guess, the old Fort Park in Murfreesboro, and this park has a ton of different obstacles. Obviously there's going to be a pump track, but also there's some transition and plenty of like low impact ledges, banks, curb, flat bar, so tons of stuff to skate here. And all of it is really well laid out, nice kind of flow to everything. Things connect super well. So normally I don't try to talk up skate parks in terms of like how good they are or anything like that, but this one was really well designed, so you'll see that here in a second. So with that said, let's go check out this particular skate park. I'm going to start at the west end of this particular skate park, and what you see in front of me is a quarter pipe section that actually has kind of a nice hip setup to it. And this is really where you might want to start with your drop in to hit some of the street obstacles later. So this particular quarter pipe is about 3.5, 4 feet tall. And like I said, there's a hip section in the middle. This first part is roughly 10 feet wide. And then you got like kind of a nice angled hip that curves around to a much longer, maybe like 20-foot section. So that part of this is really nice and lends itself well to all kinds of lines. And then as we get more into kind of the central section of the street area, first thing you'll notice in front of me is this really mellow bank to ledge area with kind of like a manual pad setup in the middle. So the bank itself is about 2 feet tall, nice mellow slope. And the ledge, it is sloped at an angle so you can wally into it, and it's only about 12 inches off of the top of the bank. And then the top section of it's about 2 feet wide. So nice and easy to get onto, so you can slappy grind on it. And then it's also nice and long. This thing is about 30 feet long or so. And then kind of tucked in the middle of it that you can carve around or do manuals on, you've got this box. This thing is only about 8 feet long, about 12 inches off of the ground, so pretty standard height and length. But again, just skates kind of like a way to just introduce some challenges and different options into this particular section. Then behind me, pretty standard box and flat bar. The box itself is, I would say, about 20 feet long and only about 12 inches off the ground, maybe even lower than that, like 10 inches. So super easy to get onto, skates like a manual pad, but obviously, metal on both sides, so meant for grinding as well. And then the flat bar, this thing is about 12 inches tall, circular rail, about 16 or 18 feet long, I would say. And again, this is super easy to get onto, and the width of the steel is about 3 inches, so nice to lock into and balance on. And then of course you've got the skate stopped bench, which I kind of scratched my head about, but that's there as well. Next, we've got a bank and hip or pyramid, whatever you want to call it. This thing is about 4 feet tall, and the top of it doesn't have any coping or anything like that, but you could do like tail slides on it or what have you. Does have enough of an angle to do that sort of thing. But the main option is, of course, is the hip. Typically you're going to come at it coming from the back quarters and then hit it this way going down, so you got plenty of room to land your trick or whatever, but good for all kinds of different options there. And then towards the middle, I've got just kind of a mix of different things. So you've got this curved ledge that is about 12 inches tall and close to, I'd say, 25 feet long or so, and kind of arcs out. So definitely gives you an interesting option to do kind of slides or grinds around the corner. And then you've got this like kind of pyramid type thing that's narrow enough to where you could board slide in it, but you know, is probably I would say the least skated thing in this particular park. Next, you've got a bump to bump gap thing, kind of like fly box. This thing is super mellow. The ramps themselves are maybe only 16 inches off the ground total, even lower than that with the middle section. And the width of this gap is about 4 feet. So pretty easy to, as long as you have enough speed coming from one of the sides, easy to get onto and fly over. And then right in front of me is just like an angle iron curb. This thing is pretty sharp, and it thus is a little bit trickier to grind, in my opinion. Needs probably a little bit more action before it feels like it's grinding super well, but definitely a good slappy curb. Kind of nice to have metal instead of concrete. And then the last kind of low impact thing at this park is this taller 14-inch ledge that's about I would say 16 or 18 feet long. And this thing is kind of narrow on top, only about 3 feet wide, maybe 2 feet wide, and can still skate like a manual pad, but definitely intended to be more of just a taller box to skate and do grind, slides, whatever you want to do on it. Now this is really the only like bigger impact section of the park. You've got 2 round rails and a hubble edge down a 5-stair. Obviously they're a little bit longer but taller to get onto. So I think the main height of these is probably about 20 inches when you get onto it, and they're going to be longer. So you see like the rail itself is about 12 feet long, but you know, it's something that you ollie out onto and you've got a nice long slide. So you don't really have to worry about sacking this unless you're shorter. So that part of it is good. And then obviously you got banks on both sides to get around it if you're trying to go up instead of down. Then we've got the hubble edge, skatable on both sides. This thing is taller than the rails by a little bit. I would say it's about 2 feet off of the ground. And the setup for it is slopes down slightly, so that's kind of a bummer. So you're kind of going downhill a little bit as you're getting onto it, but nice and long. And if you feel like skating hubble edges is good, kind of all around standard sized hubble edge. And then to the left of that, you've got a bold corner that's about 4 feet tall. This thing in its entirety is maybe 28 to 30 feet wide, so gives you an opportunity to change directions and go either to the left or right depending on how you're hitting this thing. And then finally, to kind of round out the street area, you do have this double pole, like shotgun style pole jam, and this thing is super mellow, rainbow arc to it. You know, obviously you've got the bank to jam it, or you can come from the other way, sort of out of the pump track area. And this is set into the ground, so it just functions as a pretty simple ride-on obstacle. So that's kind of cool, nice thing to have at this particular park. All right, a couple more things to cover before we get into the pump track area. What you see in front of me is about a 2-foot quarter, super basic, good for learning different lip tricks and learning how to drop in if you're starting out for the first time. And then it also has like a hip to it. And then opposite of it is a taller, like 3-foot, kind of volcano style quarter. This thing is actually really wide. I would say probably kind of maybe even 50 feet end to end. But you know, this thing obviously skates like one big hip if that's the type of thing that you're into. And then lastly, there's another 3-foot quarter with a huge deck. This thing, again, it's, you know, meant to set up for lip tricks or get speed for the rails and hubble edge, so you can drop into that and get speed for the rest of the park. So that's really a nice setup. But this thing is also good for learning. Still pretty mellow, so good for learning lip tricks or getting comfortable dropping in. So I'm going to kind of give you an overview of the pump track without getting too far into the details of it. But a number of these pump track sections are like vary from like 2 or 3 feet tall all the way up to 4 feet in some of the sections. It's still very mellow and smooth. So being that it's concrete and then you've got this AstroTurf section in the middle, It feels very comfortable riding, and doesn't really matter if you're just beginning on the pump track or you're more of an advanced type of person. There's all kinds of lines in this, and ways to get speed, ways to do like little pumps out and get some air off of some of the rollers. But all in all, it's just pretty standard layout for a pump track. Kind of goes off almost like a triangle type setup, and then two of the corners, the one opposite of me over there as well as the one right in front of me, they all have metal coping to them, so you could ride this like just a bowl and do some grinds on the top as well if you wanted to. The other sections just have kind of like concrete angle to it, so not the same type of thing, but still gives you plenty of options if you want to do grinds or slides on some of the edges here and skate it more like a bowl instead of just a pump track. So it's nice that you have a couple different options in that regard. The last thing I wanted to show you about the pump track is that there are, in that back corner area, kind of in the, I guess, northeast side of this pump track, you do have these like basically ride on grind sections which go around. Be tough to lock in because they are more like convexing, but the nice thing is that you do have that if you want to kind of do like a little bit of a ride on grind out of this pump section and just add some variety to your skating. All right, so that does it for the Murfreesboro skate park and pump track in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Obviously just an amazing park, super smooth, lots of obstacles, very modern feel to it. I think New Line knocked it out of the park, and I'm really hyped to be skating this today. A lot of fun. I wish it were closer to where I live, but if you're in the Murfreesboro area or kind of south of Nashville, you definitely want to come check out this park. It's well worth the drive, and something I'm sure a lot of people in this area are really hyped to have. So with that said, if you have any questions about this park, just drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next skate park tour video. Thanks for watching.